There are reports out there that the number of unaccompanied migrants detained at the border has tripled in the last 2 weeks to 3,200 plus. Is that number accurate?
I'm not going to confirm numbers from here.
The president's beloved German Shepherds arrive at the White House.
From the Oval Office today, the president's dogs could be heard barking.
Can you clarify for us what happened with the president's dogs? There's some reports that one of them was involved in a biting incident.
On Monday, the first family's younger dog, Major, was surprised by an unfamiliar person and reacted in a way that resulted in a minor injury to the individual.
Okay, I'm done with this.
No.
Sorry, no. Sorry.
Do you know what? That's pathetic.
You can track him, mate, but not my own.
No.
See you later.
I'm being...
Sorry, can't do
This
this.
is absolutely diabolical behaviour.
What a day. What a horrible day for institutions. Piers Morgan gets 86 from his morning show, and Major and Champ are 86 from the White House. Cast away back to Delaware to think about what they did. What was it that Jen Psaki said that they did?
Can you clarify for us what happened with the president's dogs? There's some reports that one of them was involved in a biting incident. Can you clarify exactly what happened?
Sure. Champ and Major, the president and first lady's dogs, members of the family, are still getting acclimated and accustomed to their new surroundings and new people. And on Monday, the first family's younger dog, Major, was surprised by an unfamiliar person and reacted in a way that resulted in a minor injury to the individual, which was handled by the White House medical unit with no further treatment needed. It had been previously planned already for...
I love that. He reacted in a way that
resulted in a minor injury to the individual.
He absolutely did not.
He knocked over a vase and it hit the person's toe.
He threw one of Joe's golf clubs at the man. He acted in a way because you know why? You know why he reacted in a way?
Unfamiliar individual?
He was surprised. They asked him. They debriefed him afterwards in a closed-door interrogation, and Major said, you know what? I was surprised. I didn't see, you know what? I was surprised, and thus I reacted in a way. I absolutely did not attack somebody like a vicious German Shepherd is capable of doing whatsoever.
Maybe they should leave the dogs unleashed around the reporters more often.
You don't think that I think of that constantly? Even George W. Bush's little dog mauled a member of the press years ago, and I was thrilled. Little Barney, I think. He was a mean bastard. So that's it. The Major and Champ are finito. They have been sent to Delaware, where I assume they're not going to maul the help, although we don't know. We don't know in what ways they will react in Baltimore.
When they're surprised by an unfamiliar individual. Well, Champ is supposedly the one who's older and more mellow. Mm-hmm. But Major is only like 3 years old and is a little bit rowdier, apparently.
Apparently he is.
What I've been reading up on. And so the initial report that I read from CNN said that he bit a member of White House security.
We don't know. We don't know how many he's bitten. We don't know how many times he's been surprised. All we know is that people are very emotional about this. It is too bad, too, because those are great. German Shepherds are great dogs. But I've known a lot of them. I had a German Shepherd mix growing up, and he was a great, great man, great dog. And I did know another one as well who was a great one, but he also would get surprised, and he sent my neighbor to the hospital, and then he went away. We didn't ask, but that was it for Cherokee, the German Shepherd, which now that I think about it is a problematic name.
Yeah, geez.
Oof.
I think we need to sign you up for some re-education, honey.
That wasn't my dog. Cherokee was not my dog. My dog was Calvin after Calvin.
I know, Calvin, but I thought you were saying that you had another dog, Cherokee.
There was a dog in the neighborhood named Cherokee.
Okay, in the neighborhood.
Who belonged to Danny Smith, who lived in Melrose after he went to Winchester.
Okay,
See how
there
it all...
you go.
Yep.
Okay, Danny
Cherokee
Smith
was a great
needs
dog.
re-education. There we go.
Yeah, well, actually, it would probably be Dan's dad, who worked for the Winchester Police Department, maybe for the canine department.
Oh.
Yeah, I've got a rich history of this. I have to find you sometime. Did I ever tell you about the letter we got from the dog officer?
No.
So my dog, my German Shepherd, Calvin, I actually got him from the Winchester Dog Pound, and he was fantastic. He was an incredible athlete, and he was also just a great charmer. He would charm everybody. He wasn't annoying like certain animals that may be in this house. He was a great and charming dog, and very intelligent, and just a blast. He was a great dog. But Calvin would sometimes just run. We built a fence to keep him in. He was mildly amused by the fence and would vault over it. And so he would just.
And that was like a tall fence too, like
yeah,
like a 10-foot.
He didn't care.
Fence
He was
or
gone.
Something. Yeah.
So Calvin then he would run away sometimes for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be gone, then he'd come back. You know, he'd live his other life. Whatever, he'd come back. We eventually met the people that he'd been spending so much time with. They fed him well, so he was like, no, I'll just stay out here for a while until Mr. Shattuck goes shopping. And so anyway, Calvin one time. It was great because Calvin used to, for some reason, the Marines gave him recruiting stuff, sent him somehow. His name got in a mailing list, so they were trying to recruit him. And it was just a funny and great dog. But one time when he escaped and got away from our house, the dog officer picked him up, big net or whatever, and threw him in the Huskow in the doggy jail.
In the slammer.
In the slammer. We didn't know this at the time, but then we got a letter saying 3 days later or whatever. Were you surprised that I got a letter, Alice?
No.
Oh, you did? Really?
I'm just reacting to your talking to show you that I'm paying attention to you.
Any particular kind of stamp?
That's what people.
Third class, or?
That's what people do in order to show that they're paying attention to somebody. Is they react to things that they
I understand,
say.
but I wouldn't react to letter. There were a lot of letters in 1987. Oh wow, do tell. No, I'm just so anyway. So we got this letter. We got this letter from the Winchester Police dog officer named Nick, who was a good guy, saying, we've had an incident at the dog pound where your dog, Calvin, has jumped out of the pens. And those are like 12 feet.
Yeah.
He just climbed up and had enough, and he was gone. And he came up to us. And it was a big letter written in typewriter. Oh. Written by typewriter, and it said, your dog has made a mockery of the leash law. And it was high-minded, very very fire and brimstone talk about how the rule of law was being threatened by Calvin because he had what? That's not a good noise. So anyway, my dad was so pleased with the letter that he put it up. He framed it. I'll say he framed it. He didn't really frame it, but also he put it in a prominent place and stuck it on the wall. Wait a second. Is this a boycott?
What do you mean a boycott?
You're not making any validation noises?
No, I nodded to you.
No, that's not audible to the listener. So they didn't know when to be surprised about something or to find something interesting. Some of them won't know, Alice. Some of them could be high on marijuana right now. So they won't know to be blown away and awestruck by the idea that I got a letter, unless you make the noise. They need to know.
Wow.
Wow, Alice just flagged something for me. It was really quite interesting. The mail came almost daily, according to Tom. So there's the dogs, and I just like the idea that the White House communications team, it's all female, can't find a way to put at least this. It's okay. The dog bit somebody. You can't even say this. Yes, there was an incident. The canine was surprised.
And reacted in such a way that resulted in an injury to an individual.
Some things you don't have to exactly put through the spin machine, and it will help communication if you don't sound like robots.
Right.
I mean,
people have heard of dogs biting people. That's a concept people are aware of.
We all assume it's one of maybe three things that happened. And most likely that one of the dogs went nuts. Is the cat in the house yet?
I think they have a cat by now. I thought they were going to get one a while back, so I think
they had one coming, but I don't know now. I don't know. I don't like the idea of.
Well, anyway, some Twitter users also had a theory. It was funny on Caitlin Collins's tweet that Biden's dogs were back in Delaware, and she tweeted the CNN article. There were a bunch of replies that were theorizing that maybe the dog, Major, was in the know, actually, and was justified in his actions. One commenter writes, investigate the security officer. The dogs could be onto something.
Yes.
My thought, too,
Oh, good.
Replies Blue Girl Rules.
Mhm.
German Shepherds are wicked smart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then we have another one who says, I had the sweetest English setter, female, the boss of the house. One night, one of my daughters brought home a guy for us to meet. She growled under her breath the whole time he was there. He never came back because it turns out he wasn't a good person. Dogs, no.
Okay.
We
so
dog
let me
sat a
help you
shepherd.
one thing.
Wait.
Let me help before we go any further.
Okay.
Dogs don't know. Dogs. You know what a good person is to a dog? A good person to a dog is somebody who hands him a piece of a hamburger. That person is a good person to a dog. They don't have any innate sense. They don't care that somebody's a dirtbag.
The unique moral qualities of the person.
Right.
Let's see. We have another reply. We dog sat a shepherd. One of my friends came and he wouldn't stop growling. My dad wouldn't let me hang out with him anymore. Dog was right. A thief and a jerk. See, and then one person is a doubter.
Get his rap sheet.
One person is a doubter of the theory. Imagine dogs having the ability to analyze moral character. And this person replies, clearly you have never had a dog.
Oh, my God. No wonder the dog attacked him.
Yeah, free Major Biden, says the hashtag. Yeah, but clearly, this person says, might want to run another background check on that security guard. German Shepherds rarely bite unless they sense danger.
Right, and unless they bite.
I have 4 of them, ages 7, 4, and 2 one-year-olds. I only had one incident with my oldest. He bit an acquaintance of my son that kept banging on our window after my son told him repeatedly to leave after he started a fight with my son's girlfriend.
Oh, my God. It's a moral test that you pass or fail. The dog knows innately. It's been designed that the dog would know what's going inside in the innermost thoughts of people.
Yeah.
And so that's what's happening. We're not trying to humanize animals here because we're really a country that's bored, bloated, and that needs something else to do.
Here's another testimonial. Yep, I used to walk a German Shepherd for an old man in the village. He was a pussycat with me and let the guy's grandkids climb all over him, good with cats. One day, a boy grabbed at me, and next thing you know, that boy was on the ground with the dog's paws on his shoulders and his teeth bared at his neck. It's
yeah,
a little extreme.
Didn't really
they
happen.
know. So, there you go.
So that's what happened. So we've now impugned a member of the White House staff.
Yeah, White House security.
Because it can't be that the dog is flawed or is defective at all, or had a bad day, or is occasionally an a-hole.
Or is 3 years old and is in a new place with all kinds of crazy stuff going on and his owners are rarely there. That couldn't possibly be the explanation for the
Dogs
behavior.
bite people. It's what they do sometimes, you know. It's not in their best interest a lot of times. Sometimes something just they see. Our dog bit
me.
Well, that was because you pulled her collar and she wanted to stay there. But our dog bit your sister's boyfriend.
That's true.
Right. And you know what it was? I think, and I'm not going to say which sister or which boyfriend or anything like that because it doesn't matter, but I think perhaps he had been overserved and the dog didn't like the vibes he was getting. I don't know that I don't know he read his heart. I think he said,
I don't think.
Something's off with the power situation here. I'm going to slap this dude and see what's going on.
Yeah, no, I don't. It's all like weird pack instincts and stuff that get set off. It's not like a moral judgment by some human thing. I mean, I do think there's a thing sometimes where they can like recognize when a person's an intruder in the house. You know, like there's a reason people have dogs as guards. Like they know when something's off with the vibe in the room and like, but that's generally, I think that's like due to the human reactions around them.
Yeah, and I would think you're right. I would think that you're right. That somebody who's breaking into a house and Major is standing there is exuding a lot of energy, including fear. That Major's like, usually everybody comes over and pets me. This guy's just putting the candlesticks in his bag. That's really interesting. All right, Alice. Well, you know, it was a big day for...
When you circle back, you're no hack, Jen Sock, you're no hack. Even when right-wingers go on the attack, you put them in their place with a smiling face and with style and grace. That's That's how Jen Psaki circles back.
Well, all right. Today's circling back was a question about the number of migrant children coming across the border. This is a big thing that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously very worrisome, and we're being overrun on the southern border. So the White House press corps has a desire to know how many people, how many little human beings have made it across the border. Seems like a simple, straightforward question to me.
There are reports out there that the number of unaccompanied migrants detained at the border has tripled in the last 2 weeks to 3,200 plus. Is that number accurate?
I'm not going to confirm numbers from here. Obviously, the Department of Homeland Security and others oversee the programs and the engagements that happen at the border. I will say that there are a couple of reasons. I know Amr asked about our kind of change in policy.
Wait a second. Why aren't we doing numbers there? She has all the good numbers there.
Yeah, I mean...
She has numbers all the time,
I mean,
remember?
I know that there's a Department of Homeland Security, but I believe her boss is the head of the executive branch, of which the Department of Homeland Security is one part.
Correct.
But there are a couple of reasons why we think people are coming to the border. Of course, individuals are fleeing countries where individuals and families are, they're fleeing prosecution, fleeing violence.
I don't know if anybody asked that question. I think we know that there are a number of factors why people come across the border.
Yeah, I think
and that we know that, which is why we didn't ask you to tell us that, because it's redundant to the information we already have.
Fleeing economic hardships and other things. The region has also experienced 2 hurricanes in the fall, putting further stress on the conditions in these countries and the circumstances that are facing.
These are great answers to why are people coming across the border. Of course, that wasn't asked. The question was, how many people do we have now? Remember, we were going to make sure that every child is returned to their parent.
Yeah.
Well, how are we supposed to do that if
Idina Menzel's 8-year-old was crying when Biden was elected that there were going to be no more kids in cages.
Right,
so.
now we don't know how many we have. We have no idea.
Individuals, and all of this is taking place during a global pandemic that has impacted other countries' economies, placing undue hardships on its people, just as it did in the United States.
Can somebody ask her that question so that this can be used properly? The question she's prepared for?
States. So there are also a range of factors that are leading individuals to come to the border.
Why won't you confirm that number? That's a very important number.
We've been very clear that there is an increase, that there are more children coming across the border than we have facilities for at this point in time. Those numbers are tracked by the Department of Homeland Security, so I'm just suggesting that you talk to
Can you be very clear about the number? Can we get that?
them about specifics.
We talked to them, Jen. They won't confirm the numbers.
Well, I would encourage you to go back to them and ask them again. We're not going to confirm them from the White House. It's not our program. It's the Department of Homeland Security.
It's not our program. It's the Department of Homeland Security. The other administration. That's not us.
The White House encouraging the department to release those numbers, and in the spirit of transparency that the Secretary promised here at this podium?
We certainly encourage transparency, but what I also think is important is to talk about what the root causes are here and what we're doing from a policy standpoint to try to address the challenges that we're facing and that these kids are facing as they come across the border.
So what is the policy initiative to make the hurricanes stop? Or is that what John Kerry's doing?
That's what John Kerry's doing.
Okay.
If we all, honey, just wish really hard and don't drive anywhere and turn our thermostats a little lower, then we can stop hurricanes.
You can build Teslas. Okay. Where are we? All right. Piers Morgan, Alice, out of a job.
Oh, man.
Out of a job. Piers, of course, was all in a huff yesterday, all this week, because of the Meghan Markle, Prince Harry.
He walked off the set of something this morning, too.
He did, and I'm going to play that again, Alice.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I didn't know if you had the cut. I'm sorry.
So here is Piers Morgan yesterday. And we played this before.
I should be provided with a cut list.
What about the behaviour of Harry and Meghan, who are spray gunning his family on global television as Philip lies in hospital? You might laugh. I don't think it's funny. I think it's piling hurt on the Queen, who is already suffering greatly from her husband's illness.
I'm going to respond to that. What I don't think is funny, I'll tell you what I don't think is funny. It's the fact that you are such a disappointment. I wish to God one day you would even surprise me. You constantly use your platform as a wealthy, white, privileged man with power and influence to
what a
aggravate
load of
and
nonsense,
escalate
honestly.
the bigoted,
What a load of
sexist,
race-baiting
racist,
nonsense.
and the misogynist attacks on Meghan Markle. And you do it so shamelessly.
We have done more on racial issues on this show than any other show on television. Shola, you can
want
keep
to deny
shouting.
that the royal family has any racist undertone or actions against the first biracial person simply because you're in love with the queen?
No,
You
I
can
think
love
I
the
think
queen,
what you're doing
but
now.
you can love the
Okay.
queen, but you should be able to come.
Okay, well, yesterday and today he had this guy named Alex Beresford on, who's another reporter who works for the network, I guess. And he had him swing in today. This is a guy who's he is a black man. And he's had these heated debates with him in the last couple of days. And here's an example of part of this heated debate.
And my question for you is this, and it's a straight question I think a lot of people are asking, because you've been in this position, right? And you've been equally offended.
On the receiving end of that
Is
question.
is there a qualitative difference between somebody perhaps innocently saying to you, out of interest, if you have one parent is white, one parent is black, you know, what colour could your baby be? Let me finish. What colour could your baby be? Is there a difference between that?
So I should actually just play the Meghan Markle cut to start, so that way you'll know what they're referring to, this particular cut.
In those months when I was pregnant, all around this same time, so we have in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title, and also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What?
And
who is having that conversation with you? What?
So,
there is a conversation. Hold up.
There's
Stop
several
right now.
There are several conversations.
There's a
about
conversation with you,
with Harry,
about how dark your baby is going to be.
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Ooh.
So now back to Piers and this guy, Alex Beresford, going over this issue.
And my question for you is this, and it's a straight question I think a lot of people are asking, because you've been in this position, right? And you've been equally offended.
On the receiving end of that
Is
question.
is there a qualitative difference between somebody perhaps innocently saying to you, out of interest, if you have one parent is white, one parent is black, you know, what colour could your baby be? Let me finish. What colour could your baby be? Is there a difference between that question phrased in that innocent, perhaps, way, and somebody doing it in a tone that says, well, how dark is your baby going to be?
Well, I
in a
think,
derogatory, perhaps racist
right,
tone.
exactly, and there is a difference. But what we're getting from the interview is that it was said in a negative way.
She said that, but he didn't, did he?
Listen, stop separating Harry and Meghan.
Why?
They are a team, quite clearly.
Yeah.
A very strong team. And
they might be, but they're two different people giving two different parts
And also,
of testimony.
It sounded to me from the interview that this wasn't even said to Meghan.
It wasn't.
This was said to Harry.
Harry.
So what Harry says about it actually matters in this case, whether he says it was said in a racist way or not.
Right.
I do believe that she backs him up and he backs her up.
Yeah. Right.
So, and like I said...
Yes, but as Alice was just saying, only one of them was there. Only one of them had this conversation.
Tone and language is everything.
But is there a
when it was said
but let me ask
when
you,
it was said to me, the key word was, are you worried?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But that to me is
and
racist.
there's a big difference.
That to me is racist.
But that's what she
It is racist.
reports.
Do you think it's
She
racist?
reports
It's a legitimate
concern.
question many people have asked. Is it racist, do you think? If, for argument's sake, it was William or Charles, let's not put a name to this person. We don't know. And part of the problem, and I know you agree with me about this, it'd be easier if they just said who it was.
Right.
Right? I'll come to that. But is there a difference? If it was said, perhaps in all innocence, right, and they just said, oh, what colour baby might you have, without any suggestion of it being a concern or a worry if it had darker skin, would that in itself, would just the question be racist?
That in itself is fine, but you have to think about how it feels on the receiving end, because what we're speculating is as to how that message...
Yeah, I don't know how it was communicated.
Right,
but what I would say to you is, if it was done as a worry or concern...
We also have to take into consideration how it felt.
So that is anti-intellectual thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have a civilization if you're going to pose in a sound, valid inquiry to somebody, and if they process it as having been hurtful, it then does not become hurtful.
Right.
And that's why we're deleting language in books, etc. Because we're saying that all that matters is on the end user, how they interpret what you say. And if they interpret it as racist, then it was. And it doesn't matter. And it's all about somebody's feelings. And so we're getting rid of actual definition. The reason we have definitions is because not everything can be up to subjective feelings. We need we need to have a baseline and the definition and a set of rules for things, elements of life.
Right. And the fact that these subjective definitions change over time and often quite rapidly, so that you can believe that you're saying something that nobody's finding offensive in 2005, when you're a radio host, and then you can get fired from your job in 2021 because somebody decides that something you said a long time ago actually was offensive. Like, the standard shifts completely under your feet, and you can't go back in time and unsay something that you said. But subjectively, somebody taking it 20, 30, in Dr. Seuss's case, 100 years later, you're 90, I guess, but you're taking something that was written or said all these years ago in an entirely different context in which it wasn't considered offensive at the time, and you're taking it, or, in some cases, look at like the Alexi McCammon thing that we can talk about a little bit later.
Well, I think that's a little bit different. It's a kind of a different thing. But you're right. Academics and very progressive thinkers and influencers of one kind or another have decided that they make the rules for what is accepted discord.
On the fly.
And they
about the past, too.
Exactly. And they attribute pain and suffering and damage to some of these words, even though I would say even most times the people who are supposedly damaged were not damaged, are being told they're damaged, but really it's so white women in Wellesley can ban books that they'll say, no, poor people in Boston and other neighborhoods, certainly not in Wellesley, are hurt by this, so you can't do it.
And it's the sort of philosophical connection of the two things. The fact that there are white people who are wealthy in Wellesley and there are people of color who are poorer in Dorchester. The idea that you're going to connect that disparity with the fact that a Dr. Seuss book from the 1930s exists with a picture of an Eskimo in it somewhere. Like, the idea that you're going to take those two things and say that one caused the other or impacts the other in some way, that the reason why, there are low rates of black home ownership is because, Dr. Seuss made an ugly caricature of an Asian person in the 1930s. It's those things. That's how they're saying that it causes hurt, because they believe that the metaphysical presence of deep-rooted racism in someone else's mind, can make black people poorer in real life. And it's just not convincing that that's the case. Clearly there are laws, historically have been laws in the United States that have made black people poor. But instead of wanting to talk about laws and policies and things we can do, instead of, taking Rand Paul's Breonna Taylor bill to end no-knock raids, we're not going that route to prevent what happened to Breonna Taylor from happening. We're not talking about policy and what caused this and what can we do to fix it. We're talking about cartoon characters from 90 years ago. It's and
but
things
isn't
one potentially, if you believe the whole story, one out of touch, probably old British person asking the color of a baby's skin is, what has kept down people of color across the world. It's that it doesn't work like that. The things aren't connected.
Right. Well, and also,
but that's how you get to the excuse.
It's like you said, we could actually have conversations, etc. But people don't want to have conversations. They want to use downtime on Facebook to cleanse their souls and feel like really good people and judge others and do all their work. That's church now. You've got it all now just on Facebook. I'm going to show and affirm just what a good person I am, what a horrible person that other person is, and I'm willing to show you that we now have to make a sacrifice. No more Dr. Seuss books because of this. And I'm going to show you I don't have a problem with it because there are racist depictions and there's very hurtful depictions, and especially after George Floyd. And it's so easy to do. You can do it all in 4 minutes on Facebook. But the thing is that it is effective. Unless you push back on it, it is effective. When I was walking, when you guys were gone today, Sally and I took a walk around town. And we walked by the new high school being built. And she mentioned going to the old high school and seeing our other son in Seussical the Musical.
In which there's a fantastic song called McElligot's Pool, by the way, one of the banned books.
So, right. So now, that there's no way, maybe in this town, probably not. There are many towns, they will never have that book, that portrayal, that play in their schools.
Yeah, I mean, this town put on The Wiz. That was questionable.
Well, it's a different thing. But yeah. So for instance, they all got little T-shirts, Seussical the Musical T-shirts. If him even wearing that T-shirt now would be considered a provocation among some people, because you've given it the air of a slur. Seuss now is a bit of a slur, and these things only metastasize once you plant the seed. They only metastasize. So right now it's it's kind of edgy to have that. Pretty soon it's going to be just that is an absolute slur. You can't even say it. No, don't mention it. Can't say it. Don't do it. It's going to be the same thing with Little House on the Prairie and these other things.
Yeah.
The patina of a slur on something means it's already too late.
Right.
And I don't think, and that's why people say it's no big deal. It is a big deal. It is a big deal. We're forcing this. And somebody said it today, actually, in the commentary podcast, that you would think that if you're a big progressive and you had the black avatar this summer and did all the things you're supposed to, and you're telling everybody that there's a racism all around us and encroaching us constantly, you would think that you would want to have all this evidence remain.
Right.
Rather than delete it all and say it has to go away. But this is a problem. Not only is it humorless, which sucks.
Yeah, that's true.
But it is a problem. And it doesn't recede. People think it might recede. It's not going to recede.
No,
There's
it only
so much
goes
political
forward.
utility in this and cultural utility in this. We are now practicing open racism and in some cases segregation in this country, and we're proud of it.
Yeah, it's very odd how far we've come in the woke Olympics here, or whatever you want to call it, because it doesn't stop. And every concession that you make to it only empowers them to do it further. It's not like the Seuss people are just like, these books are kind of like, we're just not going to publish them, and like quietly made a decision and they were out of print. I mean, lots of books are out of print. Who cares? Books go out of print. That's not a big deal. The book going out of print from the Seuss people, who independently decided from Amazon, they decided they would just delist it so existing sellers couldn't sell it, and eBay just randomly, totally independently decided to delist it, and libraries like the Chicago libraries started quietly taking it off the shelves. And and you can come up with a justification for any of those things. Libraries sell books in book sales all the time, books that don't circulate as much. They have limited shelf space at the end of the day. They do get rid of books. They don't keep every book ever in the library. But the fact that these decisions are being made in a coordinated way across society tells you how much power this like cultural currency has, right? Is that all it takes is for the message to go out, like beep bop boop, everybody, we're now against Dr. Seuss, and everybody does the thing. Amazon takes it down. eBay takes it down. The libraries take it down. The schools get rid of it. Joe Biden doesn't mention it. And they're all saying, like, it's just totally an independent decision. I just decided, it wasn't really in touch anymore, et cetera, et cetera. it's really, really toxic because it's not something that there isn't some like cabal of people sitting down and deciding it. This is just like pure cultural hysteria. And whatever this mob says has to go. Every force that controls every aspect of like what media you can access is taking steps to get rid of it in the same way at the same time, just because, you know, the bat signal went out that we're against Dr. Seuss now. It's crazy. And like,
and also the more you codify this particular template of scrutiny as the standard, the more the easier it is to feed other cultural items right into that template, and nothing will survive it if that template is the standard, the permanent standard.
oh, I know. This is like we're just feeding all of our civilization into a tree shredder right
I mean,
now.
we could right now, and everybody listening right now, could come up with problematic issues and examples in every single movie, every TV, and every book we've ever read. You could do it. Actually, it'd be fun. It's probably one of the reasons it's so fun being a progressive, even though they're miserable.
And actually, it's funny. It's almost like the things that are wokest at the time when they happen that become the most problematic the quickest. Like that movie Crash. Remember how that was like the wokest, most amazing thing? Shades
Moronic
of Grey.
movie.
It was a stupid movie at the time, and it thought it was very woke at the time, and now it's considered like embarrassingly, cringingly un-PC. Like you can't, it's totally unwoke the way all the, you just, and it's funny because that's like, it's the people at the cultural vanguard that their stuff, because the thing had no redeeming value in itself in the first place. It was just like garbage, and they put the PC, at that time it was more PC than woke. I don't think woke was really a thing yet. You know, they put a PC patina on this garbage movie, and then like all the critics loved it. It was amazing. Another one that happened too was American Beauty. Everyone loved American Beauty because it was so like, you know, with Kevin Spacey and the,
I know,
and that was like so edgy and like about like the homophobia and how actually like he was gay and the whole thing. And
Was
it was,
he?
yeah, because then he tries to like kiss the guy, the dad of the boy was like homophobic, but then he tries to kiss the Kevin Spacey character, and like so it was like all edgy and sort of woke and about like the struggle of like American suburban life. But then it's like, but now that movie is like very cringy.
But you know, it had one similarity that both movies have that make it clunky and totally blind. Both of them feature standard garden variety Republicans who are portrayed as Nazis.
Yeah.
Or Nazis who are portrayed as Republicans. You know, Matt Dillon's dad or whatever, you know, standard, it's typical Republican. Not all bad, but pretty much just a hateful. And then the next door neighbor guy was absolutely the Republican of the neighborhood. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, it's like their own stuff that doesn't hold up, actually. You know, there's stuff about, like, say, people always, you know, Huck Finn has always been a hugely banned book because it has that N-word in it. But it's managed to withstand most of the banning as a classic because it was a good book that was written to be a good book and stand on its own as a good book at the time. And there's just some stuff in it that's outdated. It wasn't trying to be woke at the moment when it was written.
No, it was a kid's experience learning about the world through his and you know, the character Jim in the book is a good character.
Right.
And is you know, appreciated and liked. And, you know, and it's actually fairly progressive if you think that he was hanging around with this white kid.
Right. I mean,
but actually, it's a class story too, I guess, because I guess Huck Finn felt, you know, that.
Yeah, I mean, and Mark Twain certainly wasn't pro-slavery, but
and it's and what a disservice you're doing to not let people step into and do the hard work like we're told to do, of living the hard reality of, you know, the 1870s or whatever it was.
Right.
Because it's complicated. The Laura Ingalls Wilder stuff when she says the only good Indian is a dead Indian in there is it's complicated. Maybe if you were on the prairie at that time, that kind of humor was just fine. And I told you about my own grandmother's Indian humor that they had. She's dead now, so I can disparage her.
Maybe someday on this show, I'll read some of the Shattuck book about some of your ancestors' exploits with our.
Well, we've got in the book it talks about a Shattuck brutally murdered by an Indian.
Several Shattocks were brutally murdered by Indians. They were involved in King Philip's War. They've been here a while.
So it's complicated, is what we're saying, you know. And but to have an insight into history would be. It is something that's one of the values, and certainly of Mark Twain's books. So he's a good writer, and he can evoke the feeling and redraw or illustrate the atmosphere of the time in a way that is effective, or else people still wouldn't still love reading it.
Right, and so it's just interesting to me because it's not this stuff that's woke now. I mean, imagine in a few years when all the gender theory gets redrawn again to whatever new thing the gender theory is, because like the terms that you use to be woke about gender right now are like they're different than the ones that you were allowed to use 5 years before. It was like when remember Amy Coney Barrett used the word sexual preference, and Merriam-Webster updated the dictionary that day to say that sexual preference was an outdated and offensive term, and people have been using it like the last week.
Which tells you really the motivation behind all of this stuff.
They can see into your heart and see that you're a bad person.
Right. In the case of Amy Coney Barrett, they felt abortions might be in danger, so it's time to knock her off by changing what words mean at a second's notice from the helm of the dictionary.
Right. So, and that kind of gets back to the whole like Piers Morgan thing where we started too, which is that his point is that maybe intentions matter. Maybe this person who had this conversation wasn't trying to be offensive. Maybe the question wasn't offensive. Maybe Harry told this story to Meghan in a way. I mean, who knows what happened, because he heard it from this other person and then he passed it to Meghan, who interpreted it some way, and now it's offensive, and now Oprah's offended, and now none of us is allowed to question whether or not something horribly racist happened. But we're living in a world where intentions don't matter, and where it's just whatever thing we've decided this week means whatever. Like, we all have to be on board with it, or it's a problem. You can't use last week's words for something. You can't ask.
And a lot of times you'll find out that a word has reached its expiration date because you get fired. Or Twitter banned or whatever. So let me just play this. This is the Piers Morgan and Alex Beresford. This is the point at which he just says sayonara and storms off. Piers Morgan had said that he one time had a social engagement with Meghan Markle. And from that he could glean that she wasn't a good person. Beresford suggests that they had dated once and she blew him off or something, had cast him aside. So that's where this goes south.
And I understand that you don't like Meghan Markle. You've made it so clear a number of times on this programme. A number of times. And I understand that you've got a personal relationship with Meghan Markle, or had one, and she cut you off. She's entitled to cut you off if she wants to. Has she said anything about you since she cut you off? I don't think she has, but yet you continue to trash her.
OK, I'm done with this.
No.
Sorry, no.
Sorry. Do you know what? That's pathetic.
You can trash me, maybe, not my
No.
See you later.
I'm being...
Sorry, can't do this.
This is absolutely diabolical behaviour. I'm sorry, but Piers spouts off on a regular basis, and we all have to sit there and listen. 6:30 to 7 o'clock yesterday was incredibly hard to watch.
Piers is the Meghan McCain of that group.
Wait, so can I ask a question, though? Do we all have to watch when Piers Morgan spouts off?
Well, that guy has to watch because... Well, actually, no, I guess he's not part of that show, so maybe he doesn't have to watch.
No, nobody has to watch. I thought he meant the broader public.
Isn't that the other lesson of this?
It was so incredibly painful to watch you on TV. Okay, well, you have a remote control, do you not? Like,
well, that's the other idea of they don't want this speech to be anywhere.
Right, this isn't, we all stopped buying McElligot's Pool and on Beyond Zebra because we just were bored of them and they weren't great Seuss books. They were put out of print because they don't want them read by anybody.
Right, and this is it's like at the Globe with Shirley Leung. She wasn't a listener to the the Kirk and Callahan show, but she knew that it was there, and she didn't approve of what they were saying. She had heard, and so she did what she could to get them fired, which she did. And then she worried aloud on public broadcasting about where Kirk Minahan would end up on the internet with his own podcast, because she was worried he might say things that she didn't approve of.
Right, and even you can see it now. There was a whole thing when Trump got taken off Twitter and stuff, and they were trying to, get Parler taken off the internet because it got taken off Amazon Web Services and everything. And they were like, wait, but podcasts are still kind of a loophole. A lot of content isn't going on YouTube where we can just turn it off if we complain hard enough to Google. A lot of content is going on to like decentralized RSS feeds that we can't control. People can just say anything there and people can listen. We just can't get rid of it all. Like, it just bothers them that that's even like out there to exist.
Which is one of the just more sinister things. These people like to smile and like to seem like they're compassionate people, but they're not. They're not. They're on the surface, gracious on the surface.
Right. You know who is actually gracious though is the royal family, who put out the statement that they put out. Did you read it?
No.
It's a work of art.
Really?
Like, public relations professionals should teach classes on it, I think. The following statement is issued by Buckingham Palace on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen. The whole family is saddened to learn the full extent of how challenging the last few years have been for Harry and Meghan. The issues raised, particularly that of race, are very concerning. While some recollections may vary, they are taken very seriously and will be addressed by the family privately. Harry, Meghan, and Archie will always be much loved family members.
There we go.
I mean, that's a lovely, perfectly done statement. Absolutely, perfectly careful. Nothing mean. No lashing back out.
Right.
They say they're going to address the racism privately. They'll talk through it as a family. And
you know what? I'm going to disagree a little bit.
Really?
I think that was worded in such a way to remove or deprive Harry any oxygen whatsoever. I think that was written generically and in an anodyne style to put a mirror up to him and say, "You disgraceful little bastard, what you've done."
Well, I mean, sure, but it's done perfectly.
Oh, yes. No doubt it's done perfectly. It's very...
It's sympathetic.
This kid doesn't have the chops that the old lady has.
Yeah, and neither does Meghan.
No, she's a grifter. And she's an adept grifter. No doubt about that. But he still... There is part of him who realizes that at some point he's going to have to return to society. And he's going to have to assume the rest of his actual belief system, and that he's making an exception right now because he loves her and he's obsessed with her, and so he's stepped aside in a temporary fashion. But I think that he knows that this is... I never usually speak about the royal family this seriously for this long. But I just think it's my own intuition that
as a guy.
Well, as a human being now, not just a guy. Yes, as a guy in the sense that he knows that he can't look his friends in the eyes or his family in the eyes. And that perhaps now he's too deeply invested to do the right thing, even when he has pangs of conscience. But I think he knows, and I think that very generic press release was speaking in Morse code to him. That's what I say anyway. All right, Alice, how are you doing today? Haven't seen you all day. The kids got all sorts of shots.
No, we went to the doctor.
Yes,
we caught up
they
at
had
the
McDonald's, they
pediatrician.
told me, and then they got toys at Walmart, which is excellent. She's going to be thrilled. And I think they deserve it. Their behavior's been so good lately. You know, that they absolutely...
Anson got shots, so he was traumatized, so he had to have McDonald's to perk up.
Normal 5-year-old stuff.
And then we went to Walmart because, we just needed to pick up.
Because we needed more Wonder Bread.
Well,
like I had...
I always grab a Wonder Bread whenever I'm at the store because we go through it rapidly.
That's very déclassé. You're not supposed to say that we use
I
Wonder
love
Bread.
Wonder Bread.
It is the best. It is a really good bread. It's not the best bread. Because we've had the best breads, the stuff that lasts about 6 hours before it spoils, but has like jalapenos in it.
Mm-hmm.
We've had that stuff.
And like the melted cheese and stuff
Oh,
in there. Yeah,
I mean,
that's
who we
great.
Yeah.
So, but I've been out running around doing errands all day. We had a weird charge on our debit card, so I had to go to the bank and replace my debit card. I did that.
Any idea what that was?
No. I mean, so it was a charge that said PayPal, but there was nothing on our PayPal accounts, like, that was placed by us. So.
We have PayPal accounts?
Yeah.
I do?
Yeah.
What do I do with it?
Nothing usually. Sometimes I buy stuff like if a website has like checkout with PayPal.
Okay.
You know?
I don't know. Yeah.
But so I check to see because sometimes I do buy things online and like the payment goes through PayPal, but I couldn't find anything. So then I canceled the debit card and had to go get a new one, which is annoying, but that's done now. So it was like a running errands largely kind of day. We mostly did that type of stuff, but you know, you have to have those from time to time, get some things done. Let's see, what else is out there? I mentioned earlier that Alexi McCammond of Dating TJ Ducklow fame is in hot water a bit. First, it was a positive story because she was named the new editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue, the magazine that used to be a normal teen magazine and became insanely, absurdly woke over the last few years. So, but anyway, she was named the new editor-in-chief, which is great. But now there's a problem because somebody found her old tweets from when she was a teenager, and she made some rude comments about Asians.
Oh, of course.
So, Alexi McCammond, it should be noted, is a woman of color herself, but not an Asian woman of color. And she casually used slurs for being homosexual as insults. And so the staff is having a mutiny, and they have written a statement that says, as the more than 20 members of the staff at Teen Vogue, we've built our outlet's reputation as a voice for justice and change. That is true. We take immense pride in our work and in creating an inclusive environment. That's why we have written a letter to management at Condé Nast about the recent hire of Alexi McCammond as our new editor-in-chief in light of her past racist and homophobic tweets. So these are from quite a while ago, these tweets. They're from 2011 when she was 17 years old. We've heard the concerns of our readers and we stand with you. In a moment of historically high anti-Asian violence and amid the ongoing struggles of the LGBTQ community, we, as the staff of Teen Vogue, fully reject these sentiments. We are hopeful that an internal conversation will prove fruitful in maintaining the integrity granted to us by our audience. So it's not clear to me exactly what they're saying.
Does she got to go? Is she done?
That they want to happen. They want an internal conversation to maintain the integrity granted to them by their audience.
Oh, good.
So I'm not sure what that actually means they want to happen.
Now, that seems like a very, very fun bunch.
Well,
absolutely.
So maybe she's better off if she doesn't work there, possibly. Wait!
Oh, okay. Jeez. I figured that you were wrapping up.
Aren't I supposed to give you a symbol when we're wrapping up?
A symbol?
Or a sign?
You mean the one that you already some one you always do?
Sign.
I thought he was coming in. I thought that you were winding down. You know
So-
what? I apologize. Sometimes I make mistakes too.
Okay. Well, the LA Teachers Union has a reminder for their members that they posted on their, they thought, private Facebook group, but somebody leaked it. They wanted their members to know that if they're planning trips for spring break, please keep it off social media. It is very hard to argue that it is unsafe for in-person instruction if parents and the public see your vacation photos.
Right. They might assume that you're being insincere when it comes to worrying about the coronavirus and locking down and all that stuff, and that maybe you just don't want to work, but you do want to get paid for it.
Yeah, and finally, it has been a tough day in the media for people at HuffPost who were recently acquired by BuzzFeed, which has let 47 of them go now, just after acquiring them. So, including many of them at HuffPost Canada, I believe. But yeah, not a great day. It's happening all over the place in the media. The people on Twitter were not hyper sympathetic to the journalist's plight. Strangely, I think they felt that maybe there was more concern over the loss of journalism jobs than, jobs at the Keystone Pipeline or in coal mining or other places. But in any case, not a great day for our friends at HuffPost. Okay, I'm going to tell you, though, that now I am indeed, see, I'm giving you a sign. I'm ready to wrap up, and you can do that before your son pulls the camera off the wall.
Okay, hold on. Let me find the thing. Here we go.
But in any case, that is where we stand. You can find us on Twitter. There goes the camera. Nope, don't pull on that anymore. We're on Twitter. I'll update you on the status of the camera. That's at Burn Barrel Pod. You can find us on Facebook.com/Burn Barrel Podcast. We're also on YouTube. That's Tom Shattuck's Burn Barrel is the name of the channel on YouTube. You can find us there. Comment, like, subscribe to the channel. Write us an email, burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com.